Hi, everybody. I'm a Raging Papist, and today I'm joined by Undertow. Undertow is a guy that I met sort of through Millennial Woe's channel during primarily the GamerGate revolt, as you all probably know. I'm very curious to hear what he has to say on the entire affair, because he and I, as sort of being reactionary gamers, it's fun to see different perspectives and to sort of commiserate on the victories and defeat of GamerGate. Where are we going? What does it matter? So, Undertow.
Yeah, hi. I don't really care much for GamerGate anymore. At the time, it was one of the big things that catapulted me into alternative politics, but not because it changed my opinions, but because it let me know that other people were out there with my opinions. However, as GamerGate dragged on, it very quickly changed into something that was not what I was interested in it for. But before I get into that, Raging Papist, what do you think of GamerGate overall?
Well, for me, GamerGate was a spontaneous reaction. You know, I'm assuming anyone that watches this video is going to know about the Zoe post and Internet Aristocrat and all that.
Yeah.
But for me, I got into it because, as you, it was largely a political thing. I've made videos before how it was sort of a pushback for me against far left SJW media that was constantly telling gamers how they should feel about these topics, and if they do not agree, then they are dead. They are useless, and they should be thrown out from the entire hobby. We don't want you here.
Exactly.
So that was my sort of entrance into it, and when I became a part of it, I actually had a very positive experience. This was a civil war within the left that I got to sort of hang out and watch and start red-pilling people as I myself was red-pilled. You know, I met some good people, and ultimately I think we had an awful lot of victories, I think, for gaming. Obviously, we can talk about Bioware, the SJW infection that is EA, and things of that nature. But for me, the takeaway is it over? I think it be over, because
Sorry, you cut out there. Your question was, is it over, and then what?
I don't think it is. I don't think GamerGate can end, unfortunately. It's the mindset of, it was the Great Awakening for gamers to realize that the media and the left is adamantly against them. And so because of that, that leads into the larger culture war that we now as gamers are just going to have to be pushing against, you know.
I had a similar experience to you up to a point where I met a bunch of nice people and a bunch of people with like minds, and we were dead set against the SJW indoctrination and infiltration of the industry and this hobby that I waste the majority of my waking hours on. But I noticed at a certain point that things stopped being about standing against the social justice system, so to speak. And it became more about virtue signaling within GamerGate. The Not Your Shield hashtag was a huge blow against them because it was demonstrating that, look, not all minorities, not all sexual degenerates are on your side, left, et cetera, et cetera. However, that took over the entirety of the movement, and all that's left now in the threads that appear on the forums where I go, dedicated to GamerGate and all such other things, it's only a bunch of people sitting around circle jerking about how great they are for being right-wing even though they're gay.
Sure.
That's the majority of what I see in it now, and that's a big reason why I've moved away from it, because I sort of abandoned GamerGate at about the same time that Internet Aristocrat Jim did, for exactly the same reasons. I saw a lot of profiteering by way of Mundane Matt and Sargon of Akkad. Not that not that I'm saying that was their intention at the beginning, but that sort of became their career. in many ways. And so clearly they never would want the social justice to actually be purged. You see what I mean? Because that would endanger their livelihood. And just like Internet Aristocrat said in that video he did when he made his took his leave of the movement, or the hashtag, or whatever you want to call it. He said you have to attack. And after a certain point, people just kind of stopped. And it just, for all the talk of all the letter writing campaigns to the advertisers of Gawker and everything, it wasn't Gamergate that killed Gawker. It was Hulk Hogan.
yes, with that glorious body slam that just happened.
And that is great. Don't get me wrong. The number one thing I want for Christmas is to see Nick Denton's suicide note. But it's so, after I stepped back from it, I saw so much of a lot of the participants in Gamergate after a certain point have begun congratulating themselves for things that are just general cultural movements. Now, don't get me wrong, Gamergate played a ginormous role in the awakening of many people to the presence of the media and the media narrative, and the leftist bias that the entire modernized world has in terms of the public sphere, anyway. But I feel like, again, past a certain point, it was just those four guys that follow Milo Yiannopoulos around and carry him around on a throne. Mm. That is what Gamergate is now. Mm. And when I look at that, I say, yeah, Gamergate is over. Because the original intention of Gamergate, for me, and I know probably for Jim, Internet Aristocrat / Mr. Medicare, I know for him and for a lot of us who got involved very early on, it was about pushing these people out. This foreign entity that wanted to infect everything. And after there was a decision made early on by the anonymous mob that, well, we're gonna we can't just say we're here to push people out, because that would be exclusionary. We sure. Can't exclude people because it's the modern, it's 2015 or 2014. You can't exclude people from things. So we're all about ethics in journalism.
Right.
Well, yeah, okay, sure. The ethics in the game's journalism was the initial trigger, because obviously sleeping with people who are giving your game quote unquote coverage, that's a huge breach of ethics. But
yeah, clearly.
Ethics in the journalism of game coverage was the least of our concerns with what Zoe Quinn's catastrophe signaled to us. What it signaled was these leftists think that they are untouchable. Mm. What it signaled was, this is your chance to push these people out of your hobby and to get these people gone. And I mean, if the participants of Gamergate, I should say, because Gamergate is, it's like anonymous. Anybody can say they're part of it. Sure. If the participants of Gamergate had spent half as much time doing something, that they had an objective for, as they did telling other people that they weren't evil, misogynistic harassers, they would have accomplished a lot more. Right. Because past a certain point, it became obvious that the media was going to label them a bunch of an internet hate mob, no matter what they did. So you might as well do some real damage, like Internet Aristocrat said, attack. Mm. But now, of course, that brings up the question: what should they have done instead? I don't really know. I wish things had been directed in that direction more so that decision could have been made.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. How about you?
Well, for me, the point that I was thinking of towards the end as you were speaking was the idea of that they stopped attacking. I think GG stopped attacking because, as we are dealing with a leftist civil war, they weren't ready for it. They didn't realize, because the United States, the West in general, we are a center left society.
Mhm.
So these I think you only truly know political oppression in the West if you're on the right.
Yeah.
Um, and that's, I mean, right-leaning anything, whether that comes to religion or if you're a right-leaning GLBT, you don't, because if you're a right-leaning GLBT, they're going to tell you, why don't you stand with the people that are trying to bolster you, you know?
Right.
So I think for a lot of these people that were waking up to the SJW and the leftist takeover of the gaming industry and journalism as a whole, they weren't ready for the deluge of the gamers are dead articles. They weren't
Mhm.
ready to see the media not accept them because they'd never experienced that before.
Yeah.
So all of a
So
sudden now,
rather than go for the throat, they just said, no, 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 please take us back. Look,
yeah,
we'll
because
show you that we're still good people.
yeah, we're still good people. I mean,
Yeah.
like, we just
Whereas me being someone who was already on the the far right, I even back then I thought that the establishment Republicans were way too liberal, but I never voiced that because I didn't realize at the time that there was another option.
yeah.
And so for me to look at what they were doing, I was like, this is so not going to accomplish anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and with their failure to understand, and that's why I think it was a great awakening for them, because they had no idea what it's like to be a right winger. Essentially,
Mhm.
if I want to make
Yeah.
myself
No,
a victim
seriously.
class,
Right.
like they just didn't know. I remember watching the Huffington Post throwdown with we had like 3 GamerGate ladies versus Brianna Wu,
Hmm.
and you could just see they did like two interviews, and then you're done. We don't want to hear from the GG crowd anymore.
Yep.
And so they simply shut it down,
Yeah.
as they say.
And then those of us on the right wing said, see, this is what they do. The people
Right.
on the left were just confused and scrambling, saying, wait, we must have done something wrong.
Mhm.
How do we
Right.
correct this? How do we improve our image?
Yeah.
Image,
How do we get back
like
to playing night?
right. It's like, oh, they're blaming us for all these anonymous attacks. Yeah, because we're a group of anonymous people. Duh. So that it's like that makes us immune to that.
Yeah.
Don't you get it? They're going to blame you for whatever, but that doesn't. That's no skin off your back. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and this thing, they were never. Once you decided to attack them, they were never ever going to show you mercy. They
Yeah.
have their money bags, they have their own little groups, and you have now proven that you are outside of that group. So
Hmm.
you'll never be getting back in. Was the takeaway, I think, for, well, I hope that should be the takeaway for a lot of leftists within GamerGate, is that they don't want you. And it's like to transfer. I don't want to go too off topic with Bioware, but it's like Bioware shutting down their forums recently. Have you heard about that?
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
BioWare shuts down their forums. You have the fallout with the new Baldur's Gate game that's made by SJWs, and she said for SJWs. It's like, look, we do not want you as our audience. We
Hmm.
do not care what you think. We do not want your pushback.
Hmm.
So leave, get out. We are not making these games for you. And I think when they do that, they're going to sabotage themselves.
Yeah.
I'm already prepared for Andromeda to flop massively, the same way that Dragon Age Inquisition just broke even.
Hmm. Well,
Uh,
Bioware games have been absolute trash since what, a decade and a half ago.
right, yeah.
You
Since
know.
basically since Mass Effect 2, and even for me, Mass Effect 2 in terms of story was kind of teetery. But
I didn't even like Mass Effect 2. I liked Mass Effect 1 a lot
me
because
too.
but only because it reminded me of Knights of the Old Republic.
Right.
And it was, everybody loved Knights of the Old Republic because that was an absolutely phenomenal game. Phenomenal story, great class system, great combat, it was just a classic RPG that everybody loved. That's the thing.
Yeah.
My current addiction in gaming is Monster Hunter.
Hmm.
Because the newer one just came out for 3DS, Monster Hunter Generations. It's a Japanese series that's have you ever heard of it?
Oh yeah, I've definitely heard it. Never played it though.
Well, for those of you who have never played it, it's imagine Pokemon, except instead of capturing the monsters, you kill them, skin them alive, make a spear out of their bones, and then impale their children. So it's very, it's very high testosterone in that way. But no, it's actually got a lot. There's a lot of depth to the gameplay in terms of move sets, timing, items and abilities and different creatures, different things to learn. There's so much to sink your teeth into, and there's barely any story to it at all. And my point is, this is a gamer's game. This is a game that is systems layered upon systems, layered upon systems. 14 different weapons, each with 4 different move sets. Something like 60 or something monsters per game with different move sets that you have to memorize and stuff. It's got a lot, because the fun of games is the interaction of systems with one another, and with the player, of course. And what these social justice infiltrators have turned gaming into is just another film industry. You look at crap like Life is Strange, where it's just a movie where you choose which direction to walk, or the Telltale games. It's like, oh, they had this amazing The Walking Dead series. Yeah, okay, it was a well-directed little CG movie, right. And then all the rest of them have been trash. Yeah. Pardon me.
Except for Wolf Among Us. Wolf Among Us was really good.
I didn't play that one. I'm sure it's fine. I'm just making a point. It's
sure. Of course.
And then you look at stuff like No Man's Sky, which comes out, and it's promising the world because it's in these highfalutin artsy terms, and it's just a little dink around sandbox game.
Right.
It's Spore 2.0. It's like, okay. The video game industry doesn't sell games anymore. It sells hype. You can still find gems like one that I really love is an isometric RPG called Underrail, not Undertale, Underrail. It's a post-apocalyptic game set in subway stations. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, what I'm getting at is there's lots of games for gamers, but we have to make them for ourselves, because the mainstream industry, in some ways they were right. Gamers don't have to be your audience anymore, because the most retarded crap will sell by the truckload. You don't have to have an in-depth system with 14 different weapons and 4 different movesets for each, when you can just have a point-and-click adventure game with some celebrity voice actor.
Right.
And charge $80 for it.
I think, and that goes along with the SJW mindset of gaming. This is, in my eyes, they have the far left has pretty much destroyed what was good about gaming. As you said, you're talking about mechanics and the play style and speaking to masculinity and all these things. But I was discussing with a buddy of mine earlier the very notion, like for me, I'm an RPG player, right? Like that's basically all I play. And that's all I have time for. But I mean, it's also,
you have time for one, right? Like at a time.
Yeah, I have time for one, and even then, I want that experience to be hyper engaging. Like, I want to fall in love with these characters. I want to become engrossed in the world, and I want the writing to suck me in. But with the SJW takeover,
they just want to skim the surface and skip along from experience to experience, like they're watching a movie.
Well, and they don't even know how to. This is the thing; they don't know how to write reality.
No.
The only thing they know how to write is the reality that they want to live in, and that's the difference between CD Projekt Red's Witcher 3 and BioWare's Dragon Age Inquisition. For me, because
it's the difference between Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4.
Right. New Vegas especially. It's very gritty. It's far more survival.
Not even gritty, just believable.
Right.
I hate terms like gritty and dark and edgy, because that doesn't tell me anything. That just tells me that it's got some mature themes to it.
True.
And not to jump down your throat for using the word or anything, but I just thought of it right now. I don't care how desaturated a game's color palette is. I want I want to be engaged with the mechanics or the story or the graphics or something. You know, I want there to be some hook for my mind to sink in and to experience this other system. You know, because I mean, at the end of, like, for instance, when you contacted me to be on this call, I was playing Alien Isolation. It was on sale this week. I finally picked it up. That, to me, is the perfect kind of video game because it is so utterly immersive. It puts just as much effort into the sound design as it puts into the graphics or the story or anything like that. This is something that I said way back when we were both on Millennial Woes' podcast, was that games are a mixture of sights, sounds, and interactions. And the key word there is and. Right? Games are more than the sum of their parts because they're not complete in a sense until you're playing them. And when you have a game has to be more systematic than narrative for me. Not in the sense that it can't have a good story, but it has to be more systematic in the way I interact with it because the game is not talking to me when I'm playing it. I am stepping into a game. And that is a big difference between a well-written game and a poorly written game, whether you're talking about social justice propaganda or just quality of a story. Right. Again, I go back to Fallout 4 versus New Vegas. New Vegas, you are the courier. Fallout 4, you are playing as some guy who was locked in a vault for 100 years.
Right.
Where with one you are, with the other you're playing as, you know?
Yeah, and I could make a very similar analogy with Inquisition and Witcher 3, because now you could say, well, those are two different perspectives, right? One is a predefined character. You have Geralt in Witcher 3, and the other is you are the Inquisitor with whatever that is. But if you've played both those titles, yes?
Played neither.
You played neither. Okay, well let me give you.
But I've seen plenty of video footage of both of them and analysis and whatnot because I'm incredibly autistic and I love looking at analysis videos. So yeah, I know a bit about both of them. Well,
because the thing that makes the game preach at you in Inquisition, which is typical leftist Bioware. They don't know how to, and this is why I don't think they don't know how to write stories anymore. They have been co-opted and destroyed from within as a cancer.
Well, they've kicked out everybody who made anything good.
Everyone's left. Even the far left gay slacktivist David Gator. Even he left, and he was one of the last people that was there. So it's like, who do you have writing for you now?
But by the way, thing is, real quick, I always found it very ironic and funny that his name was Gator.
Yes, of course.
Gay in his name. It's like, what did you expect? Sorry.
What did you expect? And then you have, well, that's why people call Dragon Age Sisquisition.
Exactly.
But if you look at the moral themes, the tones, and what they were conveying in Dragon Age, they went out of their way to be super careful, super sterilized, because you could be very religious, you could be militant atheist, you could be, and you're supposed to be the leader of a religious order. You come in contact with spirits, you come in contact with things of the divine, and yet they always give the player an out to say, well, this is just a weird magic vision.
Swamp gas.
Yeah, it could just be swamp gas. So, but in doing that, they take away the punch of the story because it's like, well, whatever you want is correct. Whatever you want is right. And that is the mindset of an SJW. There is no right or wrong. There is no objective morality. Your perception is just as valid as mine, unless, of course, you're trying to contradict me, in which case you need to die.
Yes, exactly. Now, have you ever played the original Deus Ex?
The original? No, I have not.
You're missing out. If you love RPGs, a bit dated, but well worth your time. Yep. In Deus Ex or something like The Witcher, you do have a predefined character, right? You have, you're either playing as J.C. Denton, and you are a cyborg who works for UNATCO anti-terrorist organization at the beginning of the game. However, you slip into that character and make decisions on his behalf.
Right.
You know, you guide what happens during the part of the story that you see. A lot of Bioware and some more of the more prominent Western RPG developers, it's all about, oh, look, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
I don't want to do whatever I want. I want to be presented with the situation and make decisions about what to do in response. That's what an RPG is, you know. That's what, you know, that's why you build the character stats and everything, is because, oh, this is a solution that I want this character to lean on more, because you know, they use this is I'm going to make a hacker guy, so instead of fighting this guy head on, I'll hack the doors and lock him in his office so he can't leave, or something like that. You make your decisions sort of at the beginning of the game, and then you just get to, you know, steer it along as you go. But with like Bioware, it's always just do whatever you want, except you only have 4 options. You know, and don't get me started on these games that have karma systems. Like, you know, with good guy, bad guy actions. Press an A button now to do a good guy action. Press a B button now to do a bad guy action. Nobody thinks that they're a bad guy.
Of course.
You know, like that's one of the gripes. As much as I love Star Wars, that's one of the gripes I've always had with it. You know, the expanded universe has always done so much better because they've presented the light side, dark side as a individual, you know, fashy, I'm gonna, you know, maximize my own potential versus defense of the weak and equality, or not equality, but what's the word? Group harmony, you know, which are both things that you need to survive in a wild world. But you could argue that either of those would be good in one situation or bad in another. However, you know, of course, it's always the dark side is just evil. It's like, oh, okay. It would have been way more entertaining if the dark side had been individualism and the light side had been, you know, community trust or whatever. Yeah. But that's just me rambling now. What were we talking about?
well, the topic was just general GamerGate reflections.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, we've veered all over. But definitely, like, and then if you go back to Witcher 3, it's the idea that the reason I like those and the reason the writing is believable, and this was a shift for me when it comes to RPGs, is that people respond to Geralt and to the actions of the player in realistic, believable ways. And for instance, like in Dragon Age Inquisition, if a character is racist or a character has a bad feeling about your character because you're playing an elf, that doesn't equate to anything in real life. If you're an elf, you'll go to the guy and he'll sell you your goods. You know, and it's like, well, how is he racist? That's not. You're telling me that he's something bad, and I'm supposed to feel that way without showing me or demonstrating anything.
But he's engaging in microaggressions.
Right, and that's literally, and the same with Krem is a transgender character in the game. Ugh. And if you look at them, they are in the game. They serve no purpose. They serve no purpose at all. They are simply there for the player to meet and talk to and to get a trans perspective. And when Krem gives you that perspective, they go ahead and give the moralizing platitude of, well, I was raised in a society where anything is accepted, and don't you dare criticize me. And of course, the player, the response that you can give is nothing. You can't say anything negative. Have to accept and walk away. It's totally the opposite. If you know, people have homes burned down because they are elves, and you can build that up. You can investigate. People react realistically to the situations in where you in. You know, people don't like you.
Sharing no trolley car with no knife here.
Right. Like it's, yeah, you know, sure, you can say that it's kind of it's pleb tier racism, but at the same time, it's so nice to not be pandered to not give a moralizing speech, because like if Geralt is standing in front of people and they start talking about how much they hate elves, the player can say, yeah, oh, you shouldn't say that about the elves, or you can say whatever, just give me the job. Like I don't
Mhm.
care what your personal feelings are,
Yeah.
and that
Or
is enormous.
don't they also give you the option to say, yeah, fuck elves?
Uh, I've ever been in a situation like that, but I think if they were to do that, they would do it in a way that's like, yeah, fuck elves because
Yeah.
because of a
Right.
reason, not just because they're elves.
Right.
Um, so, but still, to me, there's a radical shift in the tone, the shape, and the themes of the story, and how they let the player interact with them.
Hmm.
So, and that's why to me, CD Projekt Red in Witcher 3 is the best non SJW game we have had since the original Mass Effect.
Hmm.
I mean, it speaks to me as a male, as a guy who's 30. I'm thinking about all these situations because they talk about family relationships,
Hmm.
and not in a weird sort of paused, gender fluid whatever you'd get from a Bioware title.
Yeah.
But
Well, I do know that at least one point Geralt says degenerates. So
yeah, so, well, points right there.
yeah.
So for me, a GamerGate victory was definitely the pushback against what was the name of that company uh, that made the new Baldur's Gate.
Oh,
Um,
Obsidian.
Beamdog.
What?
Beamdog made the new Baldur's Gate
Oh.
3.5. David Gator joined them.
Hmm.
He left Bioware to join up with Beamdog, and he joined like 2 or 3 weeks later. I think he saw the writing on the wall for Bioware and was like, "No, nah, I'm gonna go join these other SJWs." But the reason that was so good for me, and why I think that's a GamerGate victory, is because at first it came out like on a Friday, and it had pretty solid ratings, pretty decent sales throughout the
Hmm.
weekend. And then on Monday, it was revealed that, so just like 3 days later, it was revealed that they make all these slams against Gamergate. There's a trans character who you can't chastise. It's like, why are you putting a trans character in Faerun,
Hmm.
like in Forgotten Realms and all that?
Well,
It's like it has
because it's 2015.
right, just and on top of it, then when people attacked this, the actual writers for the game, I swear, the lady that writes all this, she said, "I am an SJW. I am proud of my position. I write these characters for those people, and if you don't like it, too bad." And it's like, well, okay, you must not realize that the crowd that you write for is typically not aligned with that. I mean, if you write RPGs, if you write these stories, we are not SJW people.
Mm.
And we sunk that game so hard on
Hmm.
GOG, on Steam. They went from being, I think, within the top 15 over the first
Hmm.
opening weekend to being over 70 on the
Wow.
Steam list. Like
Well,
we,
in that case, see, this happened after I sort of left the fold, so to speak, and stopped following the events of Gamergate. That gives me hope then that there are still enough people who know what they're doing
right.
left on board. Because I had not even heard of this. So
Yeah, well, because that's the thing. Gamergate is something that I occasionally come back to. I want to try and find. I don't know where else to go to find red pilled games. So I'm like, well, what can you guys kind of like recommend?
yeah,
What's the current happenings?
yeah, I guess so.
So when I found out about this, that gave me hope. I'm like, okay, so even though the hashtag has, excuse me, even though the hashtag has died down, uh, at the very least, people have been made aware of this culture war now,
Hmm.
and so we are starting to get the real pushback against these developers who I do not want in the industry.
Yeah,
And I know that there were a lot of leftists in the beginning of Gamergate, like, no, we don't want anyone to be fired. This is about ethics in games journalism. It's like,
yeah.
but you and I have always seen the cancer. This is not going to. I want them out of the
The
industry.
thing is, they're insisting on playing fair when the other side would be very much happy to get you fired.
Oh yeah, they want to smash you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was how this was going to go. So do I want SJWs out of development? Absolutely. Do I want SJWs out of articles? Of course. But and so we have to go there. I'm not saying kill these people. I'm
No,
saying
no,
I
God, no.
don't want them. I don't want them writing games anymore. It's just
Right, yeah.
take that shit to comics. You've already killed comics. Go there.
Oh God, please don't take that shit to comics. Just leave. Just leave everything. Go. Or here's the thing. Why can't they just make their own stuff?
Well, because they have no talent.
Well, yes, I know, but that was what the point I was going to lead to. But yes,
Right.
because they have no talent, they don't
Right.
have the talent to actually create their own comic book character. So we're just going to make it. We're going to make Iron Man a black woman.
Right.
Why? Iron Man was already a character. We're gonna make the blah 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 whatever. You get the idea. I feel like a broken record sometimes because I feel like I say this stuff all the time, but it's just they're able to get into established companies and established IPs because of nepotism and because of the leftist bias of media in general.
Right.
But they don't have the talent to actually create something from the ground up. It's like all Marxists. They can't create, they can only pervert.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah, that's just what they do. And it's sad because it didn't have to be this way. But I think like that's why there are certain companies, again like Bioware, that represent perfect case studies in what happens when you let these people into your industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in the beginning, is David Gator an SJW? Of course he is. That's why he went to work for Beamdog when he quit Bioware. Because they are open about their SJWism.
Mm-hmm.
But David Gator started off as sort of an environment artist, right? And although obviously he's a gay man, he wrote certain characters, the doctors and the people in charge of Bioware were like, look, you're allowed to have whatever political opinion you want, obviously, but you're part of the team and you contribute to the vision of our games.
Mm-hmm.
So you are not allowed to push your activism in our product. We'll resent that.
Yeah.
And as the years go on, more and more SJWs slowly started getting added to the team. And you could see the result of this. The storytelling started taking a different turn. All of a sudden, the sex scene that you have in Mass Effect, now that's too much, even though that was very tame.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're acquired by EA. Then the doctors are forced to leave, and now who has free reign? All the SJWs all the time.
Yep.
And it's like so Bioware represents a perfect case study of what happens when you let political activists in to your industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't necessarily know how a company could stop this, but the only way that I think it could you have to. I guess what I was after in GamerGate was a forced, I guess a forced equality of you can have a leftist perspective, but if you're going to have a leftist perspective, it has to be you have to have a rightist perspective that is treated with just as much respect.
I thought about that as well at one point, but at a certain point, you don't want. I mean, here's the catch-22 is you don't want to limit people's freedom of speech,
sure,
or freedom of expression,
right?
Even if what they're saying is goddamn retarded,
right?
But it's rough because certain things just get a free pass and other things don't.
Right.
And that's what's so infuriating, infuriating, is the double standards and the insisting that they're underdogs as they continually stomp on your throat, with their jackboots. It's maddening, I guess at the beginning when I left GamerGate, maybe I was expecting too much too fast from too many people, but I feel like there wasn't all that much that was really accomplished, and maybe I'm too defeatist and I'm too cynical about that. But if I'm sure there's things here and there that GamerGate really helped out with, but I certainly don't see BioWare going bankrupt. Not that I expect a bunch of anonymous people on the internet that bankrupt companies. But
Sure.
I don't see anybody suffering consequences for their idiocy unless it's in the legal court with Hulk Hogan.
Right.
And I'm not, it's maybe I was just feeling disempowered because it's like, you would think with that many thousands of people online with a unified purpose, they'd be able to push these people out. But they were never willing. They were never willing to go far enough, I guess, for lack of a better.
Yeah, they weren't willing to pull the trigger ultimately.
Yeah, they didn't write letters to the employers saying, now in the case of someone like Allison Rapp, people were certainly willing to make a stink about that because she was a confessed, pedophile apologist and right. actual prostitute. Like, why are you working at Nintendo? This is supposed to be the respectable family games company.
Right, of course.
And Nintendo, as soon as they found out about that, was like, oh, gosh, yeah. And then all these news articles said, GamerGate got Allison Rapp fired. And what does Nintendo say in response to that? Oh, we are not associated with any online harassment campaigns.
Mm. Yeah.
Now, does that sound like a victory for GamerGate? In some ways it is. In some ways it is. But if your goal is to make GamerGate look like heroes, you're never going to achieve that.
No.
Even this far into it, this is coming on. This is the second year now, second anniversary of the events of GamerGate coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's still just known. It is known, that GamerGate is this evil hate mob of neck-bearded, basement-dwelling weirdos. Never mind, and they're all white, and they're all male, and they're all gross. And oh my God, I can't believe
we want to kill developers. That's the one that I've heard.
Right. That's right. They actively want to kill people. Yes, right. They are worse than ISIS.
Right. Yeah.
That's just what people have, quote unquote, know.
Yeah.
And for all that vilification, what goals have been met? What goals have been set? Even.
Mm.
I mean, Gawker finally getting its comeuppance. Well, that wasn't GamerGate.
Yeah.
That was Hulk. That was something that happened before GamerGate even started.
Right.
And I don't want to take the wind out of your sails or anything.
Oh no, certainly not. Well, yeah,
but you just got to put it in perspective,
Oh sure, yeah. Well, I've heard that we GamerGate we put a major dent into Gawker's original revenue, and then the lawsuit by Hulk Hogan was the body slam. That was the final thing that.
There you go. See, and that's the thing is I'm just being too pessimistic because somebody stole your kill in deathmatch. I'm sorry, but,
well, not necessarily. I mean,
you guys at least got the assist points. But I mean, I guess the problem for me is the lack of visibility for what's actually what progress has been made, what things have been. So for me, the thing was with all of these people getting together, surely we could make our own games industry with blackjack and hookers. You know what? Forget the games industry, but I don't know. Like then to see things like Sargon of Akkad had his necromancer strategy game that he wanted to make. And he was like halfway through with it, got a bunch of money on Kickstarter, and then just was like, nah, I'm done. Now, to be fair, he did issue refunds, but it's... I don't know.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I see too much of that and not enough Gawker getting shut down.
Right.
And here's the thing, they're not even going to be shut down. They're going to be sold off to somebody who's probably going to just continue doing exactly what they already were doing.
I heard IGN was thinking about purchasing Kotaku and Jezebel.
Okay, why?
That's why my comment on the article was if I was any company, I wouldn't touch either of those with a 10-foot pole. You're either inheriting a terrible political problem or a massive money sink.
Yeah.
So why why would you want that?
What possible benefit could you get from either of those?
Well, one more avenue to push your platform.
I guess.
I guess I don't know.
Casual. I mean, the casuals all go to IGN first anyway. What more could they want?
I know. Yeah, that's.
Golly.
I don't know. Maybe, yeah. If I want to be cynical, maybe it's just to keep another leftist avenue open. If Gawker's going down.
If I was a billionaire.
Maybe.
Oh, you cut out there.
I don't know.
Sorry. What were you saying?
Well, I was just like maybe if I want to look at it as a glass half full, maybe they were gonna fire everybody from Jezebel and Kotaku and put on decent writing teams. Who knows?
Well,
I doubt it.
If it was me and I was a billionaire, I would purchase both of those and then make them into the most right wing, fashy, opinion articles ever, like overnight. Just completely change the staff out, not change the names or anything, but then just immediately do a 180 on everything and watch the regular viewers squirm. But that would be just a really expensive, sadistic kick, and that's it. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I guess we've talked for quite a long time now, and most people tend to tune out after an hour. Is there any closing thoughts on your reflections on the GamerGate phenomenon? Anything political or do you want to add?
I'm glad it happened. I wish it had gone further. That's about it.
Yeah, I agree. I wish it had gone further, but I have a bit more of a hopeful perspective in that I think it made gamers aware of the culture war that they have to wage. If you care about gaming, you have to wage this. Otherwise, we will become the comics industry. So. All right, then. Well, Undertow, thank you for joining me. And if you'd like, maybe we could do this again sometime or have another discussion on various games or companies. And I will talk to you guys later. Thanks.